There's something peculiar that happens to a man who spends a long time alone. Not lonely, mind you, but truly alone, solitary, present with himself in a way most men never experience, away from the noise, the crowds, the constant performance of being someone. And what happens is this: his attraction toward women doesn't disappear, it changes. He still notices beauty. He still feels that ancient pull between male and female. But something in the quality of his desire has shifted. The urgency is gone. The hunger has transformed into something calmer, something more like appreciation than need. Why is this? Why does a man who has been alone for months feel more at ease around women, yet less desperate? Why does he seem to want less while somehow being more present? What exactly happens in solitude that alters the very nature of desire? The answer, I think, is rather simple and rather profound. Most of what we call attraction is not really attraction at all. It's escape. A man seeks women not to move toward them, but to move away from himself, away from silence, away from the uncomfortable encounter with his own consciousness, away from that quiet, persistent tension that lives inside him when there's nothing to distract him from it. And solitude, real solitude, interrupts this pattern entirely. When you're alone long enough, you can no longer run. And when you stop running, something extraordinary happens. You discover that the thing you were running from wasn't really there at all. Let me explain what I mean. The ego, that sense of being a separate, isolated individual, experiences itself as fundamentally incomplete. It feels like something is missing. And this feeling of incompleteness drives most of human behavior. You wake up in the morning, and almost immediately there's a subtle tension, a vague sense that something isn't quite right. You look in the mirror, and the face looking back seems to need something: approval, recognition, proof of its worth. Throughout the day, this feeling follows you. You're in a conversation, but you're not really listening. You're thinking about what to say next to make yourself look good. You're at work, but you're distracted by thoughts of how others perceive you. You're walking down the street, and you catch yourself adjusting your posture when an attractive woman passes by. All of this is the ego at work. And the ego is exhausting, isn't it? Because it's constantly comparing, constantly calculating, constantly trying to shore up its sense of being someone important, someone desirable, someone significant. Now, the ego is very clever. It knows how to disguise its needs. It dresses them up as desire, as passion, as love. But underneath all of that, there's a simple mechanical process happening. The ego is searching for something to make it feel whole. And one of the primary ways the ego seeks completion is through attraction. Think about it. When a man is attracted to a woman, what's really happening? On the surface, yes, there's biological attraction, there's aesthetic appreciation, there's chemistry. All of that is real. But beneath that, there's something else operating. There's a voice, quiet, unconscious, that says, she will make me feel complete. She will validate me. She will prove that I am desirable, valuable, significant. She will fill this strange emptiness I feel inside. The woman becomes, in the ego's imagination, a solution to a problem, the problem of being me. And so attraction becomes not a movement toward another human being, but a movement away from oneself. It becomes a form of psychological relief, like taking a drink to forget, like turning on the radio to avoid silence. The man doesn't want the woman, not really. What he wants is escape from himself. Now, this is a rather uncomfortable thing to recognize. Most men would never admit it, even to themselves. They believe their desire is pure, natural, simple, and in a way it is. But it's also tangled up with this deeper need, this unconscious belief that someone else can complete what feels incomplete inside. I remember once sitting in a cafe, watching a young man at the next table. He was waiting for someone, a woman, clearly, and you could see it in his body, the way he kept checking his watch, the way his knee bounced nervously under the table, the way his face would light up every time the door opened, then fall when it wasn't her. He was not present in that cafe. He was not there at all. He was in a future moment when she would arrive, when he would feel seen, desired, validated. His entire being was leaning forward out of himself into that imagined moment of completion. That's what the ego does with attraction. It makes you absent. It makes you reach. It makes you incomplete until the other person arrives. And the tragedy is this: even when she arrives, even when you have her attention, her affection, her body, the incompleteness doesn't actually go away. It just shifts. It finds a new form. You worry about keeping her, about whether she really loves you, about whether someone else might take her away. The ego is never satisfied because completion cannot be found outside yourself. Now here's where solitude comes in. Solitude is not loneliness. This distinction is crucial. Loneliness is the feeling you get when you resist being alone. It's the ache that comes from believing you should be with someone, that something is wrong with being by yourself. Loneliness is the ego panicking because it has no mirror, no audience, no one to reflect back its image of itself. It's uncomfortable, restless, filled with a kind of anxious reaching toward others. But solitude, real solitude, is something entirely different. It's presence with yourself. It's the dropping of resistance. It's what happens when you stop running from your own company. And when a man enters true solitude, something remarkable begins to happen. First, all the usual distractions fall away. There's no one to perform for, no one to impress, no one watching, no audience for the character you've been playing. In the city, in society, a man is constantly aware of how he appears. He adjusts his posture, his voice, his words to create an impression.